Let not these reflections oppress you. I shall live without honor and be nobody anywhere. For if lack of honor is an evil, you cannot be an evil through the instrumentality of some other person, any more than you can be in shame. It is not your business, is it, to get office, or to be invited to a dinner party? Certainly not. How then can this be any longer a lack of honor? And how is it that you will be nobody anywhere, when you ought to be somebody only in those things which are under your control, wherein you are privileged to be a man of the very greatest honor? But your friends will be without assistance. What do you mean by being without assistance? They will not have paltry coin from you, and you will not make them Roman citizens. Well, who told you that these are some of the matters under our control, and not rather things which others do? And who is able to give another what he does not himself have? Get money, then, says some friend, in order that we too may have it. If I can get money, and at the same time keep myself self-respecting and faithful and high-minded, show me the way, and I will get it. But if you require me to lose the good things that belong to me, in order that you may acquire the things that are not good, you can see for yourselves how unfair and inconsiderate you are. And which do you really prefer, money or a faithful and self-respecting friend? Help me, therefore, rather to this end, and do not require me to do these things which will make me lose these qualities. But my country, says he, so far as lies in me, will be without assistance. Again I ask, what kind of assistance do you mean? It will not have logias or baths of your providing. And what does that signify? For neither does it have shoes provided by the blacksmith, nor has it arms provided by the cobbler, but it is sufficient if each man fulfill his own proper function. And if you secured for it another faithful and self-respecting citizen, would you not be doing it any good? Yes. Very well, and then you also would not be useless to it. What place, then, shall I have in the state, says he. Whatever place you can have, and at the same time maintain the man of fidelity and self-respect that is in you. But if, through your desire to help the state, you lose these qualities, of what good would you become to it when in the end you turned out to be shameless and unfaithful? In this long chapter, Epictetus analyzes and exposes some of the errors in thinking involved in a worry or a concern that many of us experience at certain points in our existence, some people even on a daily basis. And that is the fear or the worry of, as he puts it, being nobody anywhere. The Greek for that is oudes, nobody, no person, oudamu, in no place. And this really is something that many of us are concerned with. Even those who feel like we're successful, like we have external accomplishments, those who have a big digital footprint, those who've brought about an important deal, those who can point to their wonderful family. We can go down the line about all these sorts of measures that people use. And a lot of people still feel like unless I'm constantly producing, unless I'm doing things that bring me to people's notice, I'm nobody. It's a deep fear that many people have. And Epictetus counsels, don't let these thoughts or concerns, the Greek for that is dialogismoi, these logismoi, which are thoughts or things that we say to ourselves. The dia is an intensification. These days we talk sometimes in therapeutic instances about negative self-talk. This is exactly what he is pointing towards. So don't let these dialogismoi oppress you. And what are they? I'm going to be without honor, atimos, lacking honor, and I'll be nobody anywhere. I'll be nobody nowhere, quite literally. So he says, well, let's analyze this. Let's think this through. If lack of honor, atimia, and he's going to change the terms here from timia, which means sort of the honor that other people show us, the regard, the celebrity even that people have, the fame. He's going to change that eventually to talking in terms of being axios, which here in the translation is still rendered as honor, but really has to do with being worthy or having value. We conflate the two of these quite easily. Other people telling us that we're a great guy or, an important person, or that we're, instrumental to the company or instrumental to the institution, with really having genuine value. And from a Stoic perspective, it's important to be able to distinguish these apart from each other. So, going back to this, he says, if lack of honor is something evil, is something bad, you cannot be an evil through the instrumentality of some other person any more than you can be in shame, any more than you can disgrace yourself. Other people can't really disgrace you. It's only what you do that makes you vulnerable to that emotional dynamic, we could say, of disgrace, of feeling shame, of feeling guilt. So this is a very important reflection, isn't it? If lack of honor really is an evil. From a Stoic perspective, lack of honor, lack of external acknowledgement by other people, lack of other people giving us, as we say, warm fuzzies or strokes or whatever other parlance you want to put it in these days, that is not something that is evil. That is something that is an indifferent from the Stoic perspective. But Epictetus is writing and speaking for people who aren't all the way there, who don't realize or do realize but can't quite get themselves to acknowledge consistently that these things aren't, in fact, goods and evils outside of ourselves, that the good and evil lies within ourselves. So lack of honor, not being acknowledged by other people. It's not really an evil, but if it was, then there would be a problem here. You cannot, he says, be an evil through the instrumentality of some other person. It's only what you do, it's only what you choose that really fundamentally affects you. So he goes on and he adds, think about this. What is your business? What is your ergon? What is your function, as we might say? What's your job? What's your work? And we don't necessarily mean what you do from 9 to 5 to earn a living, because your job might be something like being a parent, or your job might be something like helping out in your community, or it could be what you do in your career or your job. It might be a hybrid of all these things. But what is your function? What is your ergon? Is it your business to get office, to be promoted, to have authority over other people, whether it's in an institution or in local government or on the internet, to be the mayor of whatever, This is kind of a facetious thing. I don't know that people use Foursquare that much anymore, but you get the idea. Is it your job to be a thought leader, to be an opinion former, to straighten everybody else out on Facebook about their political views or their views on diet or their views on this or views on that? No, that's not really your job. You might have taken that on as your job, but in doing so, you might have actually made a commitment that you can't possibly fulfill, and you probably should reconsider that if you have, and it's okay to reconsider those sorts of things. So is it your business to get office? No. Is it your business to be invited to a dinner party? One of the favorite metaphors that Epictetus has. Is it your business to have people invite you over? And here in the States, you show up with some flowers or some beer or some wine or dessert or whatever, and you smile at the door and you come in and make some nice chit chat, have the appetizers, the amuse-bouches, if you have fancy culinary friends, and then the main meal, and talk to people. We go on and on and on, right? Dinner parties. Those aren't really the whole sum of life, are they? No, unless your job is to put on dinner parties, in which case that would be your job. But that's not the job for most of us. That's sort of the icing on the cake. You want to make sure that the cake is actually there. So he says, certainly not. These aren't your job. How then can this be any longer a lack of honor? How can you be dishonored by not being invited to the dinner party down the street that the couple that just moved in is having with their friends, with the people that they know? It's ridiculous to expect that you're going to be invited to that. If you haven't put in the time in the organization, it's ridiculous to expect that you're going to be advanced up higher. If you haven't put in the time requisite, as Epictetus will point out in other places, kissing up, well, then don't expect to get pushed up in promotion. So he says, how can this, in fact, be any sort of lack of honor? How is it that you will be nobody anywhere? Well, the answer is this. If you think that being somebody depends on other people acknowledging you, and we could use the examples that he's got so far, being invited to a dinner party, being given some sort of promotion, being given some sort of public responsibility. We might add to this, having an online presence, having people give you thumbs up instead of thumbs down, having people like your posts or retweet you or whatever. Acknowledge you on Follow Fridays. LinkedIn even has this function where you can, with complete strangers who you're somehow connected up with, you can recommend them for curriculum design or being a swell guy or whatever it is that you want. If we think that this is what honor really consists in, and that if we don't have honor, we're nobody anywhere, we're going to be in real trouble. We're going to feel bad. We're going to have all sorts of negative emotions associated with that, and it's going to be a difficult dynamic to get ourselves out of. So he says, when you ought to be somebody only in those things which are under your control. Whether you're somebody or not from the Stoic perspective does not depend on whether people are going to hear you talk or whether people are saying, that guy understands Stoic philosophy so well, or whether they're signing up for your classes or any of these sorts of things. It's how you manage your own life, how you manage your relationships, how you manage your thoughts, your emotions, how it is, to be quite technical, that you use your faculty of choice. That is totally up to you. According to Stoic philosophy, that is where being somebody resides. And you choose whether you're going to be somebody or be nobody. That's something that is also within your control. So he says, in the things that are under your control, you are privileged to be a person of the very greatest honor. Now, here is in the Greek where that transition takes place between talking about honor, external honor, timia, or time, and being axios, being valuable, being worthy. He says in this sentence right here, here we go. Existisoi enai place to axio. So to be, have the greatest of value. Because where fundamental value resides for the Stoics is in our own personalities, in what we do with them, in what we make of them. So that is something that you can take with you. Even if nobody's paying attention to you, even if nobody's replying to your emails, even if you walk down the street and nobody recognizes you or even smiles at you, you still are somebody, and you can be somebody, you can be the greatest somebody, provided you take the care to do that for yourself, to remind yourself that you have control over what truly matters, and that it's your opinion that counts the most. It's your acknowledgement of yourself. This might require some exercises in self-affirmation, which, from a Stoic perspective, would not be a bad thing so long as they're based on reality. He goes on, and he brings up two other concerns that people have as sort of rebuttals that they would bring out. So one of these has to do with friends, and we'll look at that in just a moment, and the other has to do with one's community. So what about friends? He says, your friends will be without assistance. Epictetus responds, well, what do you mean by being without assistance? And then people will say things like this. They will not have paltry coin from you. You will not make them Roman citizens. And Epictetus says, well, who said you were going to do any of these things? These are not things that are fundamentally under our control. So if that's what your friends think friendship consists in, you've got some friends that are actually a bad influence on you, or at least not a good influence on you. If that's fundamentally what they're worried about, you might say the same thing about family affection as well. If your family is only interested in you insofar as you're putting money on the table or opening up opportunities for you, they don't really care about you. And you're better off facing up to that fact. So he says, who said these are some of the things under our control and not things which others do? And who is able to give another what he does not himself have? So what can I give my friends? Well, people invite me to places because they want to talk philosophy. Sometimes they want to pick my brain about some business matters as well, because I know a little bit about that. But, they're not going to bring me along because I am a beautiful model type or because of my musical abilities or because of my athletic abilities. At one time, perhaps they might have done that, but they're not going, and they're certainly not going to bring me along because I'm going to make them rich and famous or anything like that, or make them a Roman citizen. Although I do have to mention, I get some weird inquiries every once in a while from people who think that somehow I have some control in the academic sphere, when the reality is almost nobody in the academic sphere has any control over anything that matters. But that's a whole side note that we could do a whole paragraph about. In any case, the things that we do have control over are our personality, our choices, what it is that we do with our time, how we respond to other people. So, what do you have control over when it comes to your friends? Whether you're a good listener or not, that is up to you. Whether or not you think about your friends' problems and give them honest, good advice that's based in some sort of understanding of the situation, that is up to you. Whether you give them a lot of money or buy them fancy clothes or take them to restaurants and always pay for things, okay, that is up to you if you have those resources, but that's not going to make you friends with them in any sort of lasting, important way. And then now notice what the friend says. Get money then, says some friend, in order that we too may have it. And Epictetus says, okay, that's an interesting proposal, and we could say this about other resources as well. Get in shape, make this contact for me, make this introduction. And Epictetus says, that's fine. There's nothing that says that I can't do that, but I have to think about this. Am I able to do that action and yet at the same time preserve my own integrity? Because sometimes I can't do both. If your friend is asking you to do something dishonorable, shameful, they're not really a friend. This is something that happens a lot in life. People are manipulated. People are turned out. People are reduced to mere objects that get other objects for other people, objects of their desires. This happens a lot. And we live in a culture that tries to turn us, in certain respects, into, you might say sites of replication, if we want to be kind of fancy about this. If you think about advertising, right? Advertising now doesn't just tell you about the product and give you a hard sell pitch, buy it now. It tries to tell you a story, tries to get you involved, tries to get you to think it's a cool thing that you should pitch to your friends. Very brilliant marketing technique, but marketing and Stoicism, in certain respects, are at antipodes from each other. So he says, if I can get money and at the same time keep myself self-respecting and faithful and high-minded, show me the way and I will get it. But if you require me to lose the good things that belong to me, in order that you may acquire the things that are not good, you can see for yourself, and notice what he says here, how unfair and how inconsiderate you are. Unfair, anisos, right? Unequal. And then inconsiderate, agnomones, not really thinking things through, not really paying attention. We have this happen a lot of the time. Do this and I'll be friends with you. Do this and I'll care about you. People offer us these kinds of deals that are not really good for us, and they're not even good for them. Because what they're asking us to do is supply them with something that might actually be bad for them, or at least, probably is an indifferent. It doesn't have moral value. And they're asking us to sell something that really is morally valuable, something that is axios, that we have in ourselves, and to get rid of it for them. People do this in order to be respected. People do this out of motives of love. Romantic love is a particularly dangerous sort of situation in which this occurs. People test each other. Will you do this for me? Will you do that for me? And if you have to give up your self-respect in order to do it, Epictetus says it's a bad bargain. So he says, ask your friend then, which do you really prefer? Do you prefer money? Or do you prefer a faithful and self-respecting friend? Because I can't give you both. If you expect the money from me, I can give you that, but then I have to quit being a faithful and self-respecting friend. We might say the same thing in romantic relationships where there's some sort of coercion brought about. Do this for me. It's often in terms of sexual matters, but also in terms of you need to give up your friends and your family, the people that you care about. Break off the relation with them, right? That's a danger sign right there. Somebody who wants you to do that, unless your friends and family are nuts, right? In which case you do want to leave them behind, but that's irrespective of whether you're involved with somebody. If they want that from you, you can say, look, I can give you that, or I can give you me as a good person, but I can't give you both. So which is it going to be? And then if they tell you, put like that, I really do want the money, or I really do want the you all to myself. Now you know to leave that relationship. You're not going to be, to take the theme to begin with, you're not going to be somebody with them. Or the somebody that you are is only a reflection of their desires and fears. It's not really the somebody that you are. If you want to be somebody and not nobody, you have to do it on your own grounds. He goes on, and he says, help me therefore rather to this end. Do not require me to do those things which will make me lose these qualities. That's a perfectly legitimate thing to say to anybody who claims to care about you, anybody who claims to feel affection towards you, anybody who claims to be a family member, a friend, a colleague. You're expecting them, in effect, to recognize and behave with integrity so that they don't keep you from behaving with integrity and having integrity within your own being, depriving you of it. Now he goes on and he treats the second possible rebuttal. But my country, my patris, this is my homeland. Notice he doesn't say my polis, my political community. My patris, but the place that I come from. My roots, you might say. My country, says he, so far as lies in me, will be without assistance. It won't have somebody coming to help it out in important ways. We can say this not only about where we grew up or where we live. We can say this about the company we work for. We can say this about the educational institution that we are attending or teaching in or graduated from. People feel a sense of attachment like that. That's why they pay for buildings, right? It's not just to get their name on it. It's also to be benefactors. We can say this about all sorts of things, about people who share our hobby or our obsession. We can say this about online communities. It will be without assistance. Now he asks, okay, so what are you talking about? What kind of assistance do you mean? And now he's talking about, an actual homeland, but we can think about other things. It's not going to have logias or baths of your providing. These are like big building projects, right? And he says, okay, well, what does that mean? Who cares about that? And here's a great example that he uses. Neither does it have shoes provided by the blacksmith nor arms provided by the cobbler. Blacksmith provides arms, weapons, horseshoes too, and other things as well. Who provides the shoes? The cobbler. Who provides the food? The grocer. Who provides the massages? The massage therapist. We can go on and on and on, right? Each person has their task. Is it the task of the blacksmith to build a big college up on the hill? No. It's his job to sit there in front of the hot, forge and hammer things out that other people can use. Is it the farmer's job to inform us about philosophy? No. I mean, if he happens to do that, or she happens to do that, that's great. If he finds some way to fuse farming and philosophy together, that's really cool. But that's not an expectation for the benefit of your homeland, right, where you're from. So he says, it's sufficient if each person fulfills his own proper function. You might say it in a more contemporary way. It's fine if everybody sticks to their own job, if everybody does their one job well. You've all seen these funny memes. You had one job, right? And it'll show, something getting totally screwed up. We have an example of that, contemporary example, which by the time that you watch this will no longer be contemporary, but I witnessed last night as I'm shooting this video, which is the game which was supposed to kick off the NFL season, got screwed up and canceled precisely because somebody painted the field wrong with a paint that could have produced player injuries. You had one job, paint the field, everybody's really, really mad, right? If we all stick to our job, we make a better environment for everybody else. You can say this not only about economic transactions, you can say this about how it works within a college, you can say this about how it works within a company, you can say this about how it works within a family. Not everybody has to do the same thing. So he goes on and he says, if you secured for your country another faithful and self-respecting citizen, would you not be doing it any good? And the person he's talking with says, yeah, I guess so. Very well. And then you would also not be useless to it. So think about this in terms of political activism or all the other types of activism that people do. We can change the world for the better in many ways. And we do want our homeland, our patria, to be the best that it can be. But does that mean that we're all individually responsible for all of the problems? No. You can work on this thing or this thing or this thing. And if you feel a calling to do that, if eliminating the horrors of factory farming is your thing, great. But don't expect that means that you have to do everything else, or that you're even the one person who's going to change the world in that respect. You're probably going to make a little bit of effort, and that is enough. That is something. That is not nothing. And you're not nobody for doing that. You are somebody who chooses to benefit their community. So he says, the person might say, what place then shall I have in the state? Well, Epictetus says, whatever place you can have, and at the same time, notice the trade-off here, and at the same time, maintain the person of fidelity and self-respect that is in you. People come to politics all the time and say, I want to change the system. I want to make things better. There's a lot of people who have great intentions, and then they get into politics. And politics is very messy, requires a lot of compromises, and there's a lot of corruption. In our contemporary democracies, the way in which political processes work is, quite often dismaying to watch, to find out about. And you're going to be constantly posed with this issue. There's getting things done, getting, what people want, and then there's maintaining the person of integrity and faithfulness, pistis, inside of you. The person that you brought there. And you're not actually going to be doing people a hell of a lot of good if you allow this person to become corrupted. Because the whole point of you going into politics to change the system was that you were bringing something new that had been lost by these other people who came in also with integrity and then somewhere along the line lost it. We can say the same thing about any institution that you enter. As you rise up through the ranks, there are a lot lot of temptations to get rid of that integrity because it seems to stand in the way so that you can advance. From a Stoic perspective, if you do that, you are actually going to be throwing away what is more valuable. So he says, if through your desire to help the state you lose these qualities, what good would you become to it when in the end you turned out to be shameless and unfaithful? We can say the same thing. What good does it do for you to rise and become the CEO of the corporation that is ruining the environment for all of us if along the way you quit caring about the environment and the harm that that company is doing? It's not going to do any good. You're just, as we say, only the faces change. So you have a choice. If you want to be somebody, you have to recognize that that somebodyness comes from within you. It's not external honor that determines it. It's not what other people think of you that determines it, although there's nothing that says you can't take into account what they have to say if what they have to say is just and prudent and comes from a good place, well-informed. We can pick whatever qualities we want. It's not that you can't incorporate that, but you have to have something within you in order to be able to, as we say, make a difference. And even if you don't feel like you're making a difference from the Stoic perspective, if you're behaving with integrity, if you're behaving with justice, prudence, courage, and temperance, you are in fact making a difference.